shed on a nice warm summer day. We're going to have just our usual conversation. We don't have any glittering Illuminati from outside the shed joining us today, except Buddy. But I think we're going to have some fun, and I think you will too. So settle down, a cup of coffee, or just a walk, and here we go.
Well, yes, I found the complete 3 seasons of Arctic Air when I was in Ottawa.
Oh,
and I started watching it again.
That's a great show.
Anyway, it was fun to do that because of all the memories it brought back from every episode, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, there'd be a lot of faces you haven't seen for a while, people you had relationships with and stuff, you know. And
also back to sharing residuals with Buddy, I would like you both to know that this week I received a residual from the Beachcombers.
Nice.
Because I thought, I don't know if you guys remember that Jackson Davies, you know,
who's the Mountie?
But 30 years into the Beachcombers, he went, why don't we get any residuals for this stuff? Because it was still being played everywhere. And there was a big thing that happened in CBC finally. So I think back then when it happened, you sort of got a retroactive something, and I'm sure I made at least $15 or something. This week, 46 cents from the Beachcombers. Come on, you guys. That was my...
Frame that one.
I think that's my first gig.
Absolutely, like my first... I don't know if it was first, but it was way early.
Yeah.
Way early.
First actual kind of role. I had some...
Where you weren't a spear carrier.
That's right.
And I think I remember being excited because, you know, like the dream is recurring character, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you sort of think, is he going to be a recurring character? Well, that'd be cool. Beachcombers.
And they don't even know, like, until someone will really appeal to the audience, and they'll go, okay, let's bring them back, right?
And in those days, it would be people picking up the phone from its cradle and rotary dialing a number to somebody to say, who's that guy that played so-and-so?
Yeah, or letters.
Maybe handwriting letter with a stamp.
Cards and letters.
You know, putting it on a pony to be ridden at high speed. That's wild. Yeah, no, keep that one and frame it. That's cool.
Yeah, like if you were smart and you wanted to have an impact on stuff, you'd have a stack of cards ready to go, you know, because they were the cheapest to mail too. Didn't you get a postcard rate back then?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought they came
pre-stamped.
Yeah, and then all it is you just it and the address and you're done. It's almost as easy as an email when you think about it.
But that's a good point. And although that last bit was ludicrous, we won't just go there. But
a little slower than an email.
Yeah. Like about 100,000 times.
Oh, you're talking about the time to deliver. I'm talking about the effort to do it.
Yes.
You're right.
Because you had to go into town anyway, right?
I believe
and you had to chat with Morris anyway.
Is simply specious, RJ. Yeah. Fox Morris will know. No, I think the problem with buying a stack of postcards is then you're kind of in the business of writing letters to the editor and complaining to Hydro about this. You know, you're that person, right? If you've bought a whole pile of prepaid postcards specifically so you can respond to things.
If you wanted to be the complainer, yeah. Well, but I mean, if most of your responses were encouraging and enthusiastic and...
Well, okay,
I want to see more of that Kevin McNulty.
Yeah, but I mean...
Damn it.
Based on social media's overall tone, I think most people are prompted to reply when they have something negative to say.
Yes, that's true.
Be the same with
Not
postcards.
Me, though.
Not me either. I try not to anyways.
I think we should have a check-in to see how we all feel about the world. Did you see the 90-degree water off Florida 2 days ago?
No.
90 degrees.
Oh, 90 Fahrenheit.
It's too hot for the animals, right?
I could give you my 2-word response on the state of the world right now, if you'd like.
Yes.
Sorry, kids.
Yes, exactly. But I think I just because I think it's going to, if this podcast continues like it is, we're going to go through some stuff rather soon, I think. Remember they used to say, in 2050, there'll be an extra inch of water in the oceans by 2050. And they thought that we need to deal with, because that just means, that's going to snowball into who knows what.
Yeah.
Well, that's just gone out the window.
Yeah,
that's by
went about 10 years ago.
2024. Yeah. We're talking about feet level rises and stuff. So I just think that we should check in every
Yeah,
session.
Sue and I went for a nice walk on the West Dike, and we're looking at all those beautiful condos, basically townhouses. We thought, how lovely. And then we were thinking, they'll be the first ones. Yeah. I mean, all of Richmond will get it, but they'll get the greatest flow rate as it slowly fills up the rest of Richmond.
I think I'd suggest that if you really want to know what's happening, just check out insurance rates. Those insurance guys
must be
don't fool around, right?
Must be expensive in
If
Richmond.
you're on a floodplain and you're right behind an ocean dike and the waters are rising, those guys are not missing that.
Yeah, like if you can buy flood insurance there, it would be super expensive, and it would be through the reinsurance market.
Yeah.
Because BC insurance, like BCAA, would go under.
Yeah.
But they would be reinsured globally. But even the global guys would start to go under after a while when all these floods start hitting.
I'd be surprised if they're still writing it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're canceling it. The writing's on the wall, right?
Yeah,
it's not going to just suddenly reverse.
That Florida story accompanied with farmers insurance. Bump, 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 bump. Isn't that farmers?
I don't know.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
With who's the actor from?
That.
Who's the actor from that drum movie Whiplash? Is it called? Who's the actor? I don't know.
Drum movie Whiplash.
Oh, I know that one.
He's the farmers guy. Anyway, farmers has pulled out of Florida because of, I think, more tornado, hurricane stuff damage, but they just can't do it anymore. And so there are people who just can't get insurance. So if it goes, right? So that's, I believe, the shape of things to come too.
And Floridians are the least likely to believe in any of this stuff.
Bingo.
A lot of people would like their governments to do something quite a bit more proactive around climate management. And oddly, it continues to not happen. And you sort of think, at what point will people become so mobilized that the government is pressured enough to ignore its, for lack of more accurate terms, wealthy sponsors to do something? You know, I wonder. And it's far too late now already, but there will be a lot of people in a lot of really deep trouble who are feeling that they're not getting representation from their government. And that's a bad situation. That's the Marie Antoinette situation, right?
Well, yes. And I think that food is going to be the first thing that, well, if we're not actually in a wildfire, say, or a flood, the general population will suffer from lack of food because, or certainly selective lack of food, right? Things are going to start changing. Don't they say like most of below Calgary cannot?
Well, it's the Palliser Triangle down there. That was desert when we were kids.
Oh, well, it's expanding apparently.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's going to get worse, and I don't see where it's going to get better without cataclysm, basically. It's hard not to use other words. And so driving over here, I was thinking to myself, there's a case to be made to say, and I was thinking, how would I phrase it? We're the luckiest generation of white people that ever lived. Us, people our age who are Caucasian, probably have had the best, sweetest lives of any generation of Caucasians in history, in human history. For kids, our grandkids, and me, maybe not so much, but us, very, very lucky.
Oh, I think kids.
Well, grandkids for sure. Kids probably, grandkids for sure. And
they're certainly going to be in thick of it in 10 years, maybe less.
So we've probably, in this episode, we've lost all of our listeners that don't believe this is man-made. Mm-hmm. And there's still lots of people like that. And for the one or two that are still remaining, there's no way that we're going to convince you that it's man-made. But I beg you to reach back in your minds to 10 years ago when you're convinced that temperatures weren't rising. The same people that were telling you that temperatures weren't rising, that there was no hockey stick, that it was all just because the sensors are all downtowns, therefore they're hotter, that kind of thing. You were convinced of that before. You're no longer convinced of that. You might not even remember that you were convinced of it, but you were. Now you're no longer convinced of that, but you're convinced that it's not man-made because you're listening to the exact same news sources, largely funded through the oil industry.
Yeah. Yep. And again, I'd probably add to that, what does it matter? Like, if it is not man-made, okay, fine, great, huge. What are you going to do?
It does matter, totally.
No, but hear me out. I understand what you mean, but my thought for people who don't believe that it is not man-made is, what are you going to do? Is there a man-made solution or changes that man can make to mitigate the oncoming problem? And would those changes include things like getting off oil? If you don't want to believe that, if you don't want to believe, I guess I'm agreeing with your point that people are now probably believing that climate change is real. They can choose whatever they want.
Almost everyone does now. It's just they don't believe that it's man-made.
Yes. So put aside the question of whether it's man-made or not and entertain the question of what are you going to do about it? If it's not man-made, does that mean we just sit here and cook and do nothing at all? Is that the response?
Yes. See, if it's not man-made, all you can do is look for ways to deal with higher temperatures, right? That's all it is. And that's actually almost impossible, right? It's super expensive, and there's going to be a lot of upheaval. But if it is man-made, then there's lots that you can still do about it that will at least stave things off. So
okay.
It's important to believe. Right?
I guess I'd make my pitch to say, well, let the government spend money doing stuff that may or may not work, because doing nothing is definitely not going to work.
Yeah.
Just spend the money.
Oh. Yeah, like better forest management's huge. Like you can't just go, let's decrease oil. You also have to deal with the other side. So, and the forest management's just terrible. There are small groups that are doing controlled burns, and that's super important, but it needs to be a lot more widespread.
Yeah. I would also point at research or findings that were made when COVID started. In the 6 months after they started shutting everything down and there was a whole bunch of reporting on improvements in the environment in various places. Fish seen in streams that had never been seen the last 50 years. That kind of thing, nature bouncing back quite surprisingly quickly. So if somebody has a bright idea on how to facilitate a slowdown or change to the way the climate is going now, I think you should entertain that. I don't think we have to argue too much about where it came from, but if we could all agree that it has to do with CO2 in the air, we don't have to argue about where the CO2 came from.
Yeah.
We can just argue about how to get it out of there.
There's still lots of people that don't believe that.
I get you, but I don't know what they think it is.
What can we do, Skin? Us three right here, what can we do?
Well, we're doing it right now. We can vote. That's what we can do in this room.
Yeah.
Every level of government that you have a say in, make sure and exercise that say. It goes for everybody. Even if you don't believe in climate change and you want to vote against all that stuff, we'll do it. But passiveness is what has allowed a whole bunch of terrible stuff to get to the point it's at now. And I'm not just talking about the environment. There's a whole bunch of stuff, distribution of wealth, all kinds of stuff. So vote.
I actually had a pollster phone me yesterday.
Ooh.
Elemental. Do you know who Elemental is?
Nope.
Well, they're in Ottawa, don't you know? And I said, at the end, I said, so who are you doing this poll for? Oh, the government. Oh, okay. Because they phoned me before, I think, a couple times. And Elemental comes up under the number. Like it actually...
They show who they are.
Yeah, so I kind of know it's not somebody scamming me. But they wanted to know... Sorry about Buddy. But
was it a landline?
No.
Okay.
I don't have one of those. They wanted to know about how I feel about the environment. What's more important to you, the economy or the environment?
Wow.
Just that.
Wow.
What party do you lean towards, or what party is your... And I said, I'm kind of, I'm thinking about Green and the NDP. And she said, which one? Like she didn't want...
Right. She didn't want a whiffly-waffly answer.
No. I think she would have taken, I'm not sure, rather than Green or NDP.
Well, yeah, because they're probably trained. If somebody's that close, if somebody just says, I'm not sure, well, we're not going to run through the entire communist, Marxist. We're not going to go through the whole list. But if they say this one or that one, they're pretty close. So just push them to pick one.
Anyway, I thought, I'm pretty sure that was the question. It was about the environment and that you wanted your elected politicians to actually do something about it. And it was a very short survey, and I thought, okay, well, good for the government for putting their little finger on that pulse.
Yeah, the action will be the tell. So if 95% everybody says, yeah, I'm worried that I'm going to starve and or fry, okay, so then what? It's just, well, I'm not going to go down that road.
Well, no, I think there's a lot of people that would say that's the economy that I'm worried about.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you don't have a house to make your meals in or food.
Pretty hard to make a living wage if the factory you worked at is shut down or blowed up or underwater.
Yeah, exactly.
Blowed up real good, in fact. Boy, oh boy. This is grim. But we only need to do this once every now and then.
But almost...
Oh, you don't want to do it.
But most people are not worried about food. They're just worried about fire and flood.
Yeah, they're worried about the immediate.
Yes.
Those are the big two. They're not seeing that extra step of, there's fire and flood in farming areas or drought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to the Florida sea temperature, I'm going to say most countries in the world rely on the sea for a whole bunch of food.
Oh, yeah.
And if that sort of declines rapidly, people are going to...
So basically, if the ocean stops working, in other words, if it stops supporting life, we're done.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you've never eaten a fish in your whole life.
Yeah.
We're done if the ocean stops moderating temperature and being involved in oxygen production and carbon dioxide recycling and all that kind of stuff that it does.
Yeah, you gotta maybe flip to harvesting different organisms.
Yeah, but I mean,
because the organism, it won't be just a massive die-off. No. It'll be a die-off replaced by other stuff.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they've got dead spots in the Gulf of Mexico now that have been dead for 20, 30 years. And I mean, no oxygen, no living thing. It is not able to continue the cycle that allows things to grow in
Right. Not even tilapia.
Yeah. And if we keep that up, exactly, tilapia.
No, we went down to the Salton Sea and it's just everything's so bad there that there's only tilapia. and then every July, there's a massive die-off of the tilapia. Because there's a big bloom and a big algae bloom and that sucks all the oxygen.
Yeah.
And then as you're walking around, all a really nice, crunchy feeling sand is not sand.
It's bones.
Yeah. The entire 300 miles around that lake.
That's cool. I only guessed that.
Is old bones.
Yeah, I only guessed
that.
And
it feels really cool to walk on.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, and it's, again, listeners, of course you keep us on your regular listening rotation because we're the source of truth. But it's worth remembering that dead spot in the Gulf was big news 10, 15, 20 years ago. Somehow it just sort of drifted off the radar. How'd that happen?
I never even heard that part.
Well, it was a big thing there for a while, and it just kind of went away. 90 degrees, water off Florida. Let's check next week to see if it's still a deal. Melting ice caps? It's funny how that goes quiet.
Weren't there parts of the Great Barrier Reef that were kind of decimated that actually did come back?
Yes, but I can't remember the circumstances on which they did it. But yes,
there's
huge chunks of it that were dead. And then something changed. I don't know whether it was COVID related in terms of fishing and tourist act. I don't know what it was. I cannot remember. But yes, it did make a really big rebound really quickly. And I hope it was some change in human behavior that caused it, but I just can't remember.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, so, next time when we get to those snappers, be prepared, you guys.
All right.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so we'll just give the audience a jolt with the snappers, one of our funnest segments.
Yeah.
If not our funnest.
and then
we'll follow it up with a punch, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Come on, come closer. Come. This is fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bam!
Doom and gloom. And now it's time for doom and gloom. We've had all the fun you're going to have. Your whole life's been fun. Now it's time to pay the piper. It's doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Damn it. What else have I got? What else? Well, what have I got? What have we got?
Oh, Sue and I had a nice little event. Just one of those surprise things. I think it was the day before yesterday. I'm sitting at my computer doing what I do. And then Sue goes, oh, there's this thing on at Deer Lake Park. And what's that? Oh, it's the VSO. Oh, yeah. It's free. Boing. Free? Well, it's just that funny thing in your head, right?
Yeah.
Like, when there's what do they call that? A free bar? Or what do they call that when you're at a wedding thing? And
open bar.
Open bar, yeah.
Yeah, all the teetotalers go right off the wagon.
And suddenly it's
free.
like, oh boy, here we go. Yeah, so anyway, that was just rather awesome.
Well, just to ring another bell in your head, it's opera tonight.
Yes, it's opera tonight, and it was the symphony last night.
Yeah.
Sue goes, well, how about the opera tonight? And I'm going, no. If it's Carmen, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
will it be Bugs Bunny? Anything in the Bugs Bunny repertoire, I'm in. But,
yeah.
If I haven't heard it on Looney Tunes, I don't want to go.
Well, I mean, it's hard to sit there. There were 13,000 people showed up last night.
Whoa.
And I've been to, I'd say, 10 concerts there. It's the most ever.
That is interesting. Because, do you mind if, are you done? Because I want to segue.
I'm nowhere near done.
Okay.
I just got my story here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because, but remind me that there was a thing about the 13,000 people that I wanted to talk about.
13,000, absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah, so 13,000 people, and it's easy to forget that this is we always talk about world-class stuff. That park is world-class. Like, nobody's got something like that. It's just this spectacular, huge green area with this lake behind. And you're watching the band and the lake behind. There's people in kayaks puttering around, and you're just watching this beautiful musical moment. And the geese fly over, and they're not whack whack because the geese are listening. So it's just silence.
That definitely.
And then they're out on the water, and you see just the geese moving around on the water behind, and it's just something else, right?
What'd they play, Rich?
Oh well, of course they played right off the bat. Barbara of Seville made me think of Lee of Courtney's husband singing the words, which I've now forgotten.
Yeah.
Come into my, let me, something like that. Anyway, Barbara of Seville, fantastic. And then they did all the big hits, show tunes mostly. Like you got the James Bond theme, you got your Star Wars, you got the later Star Wars, so do two different aspects of that.
You really hope that the orchestra members are just having fun.
Well, that's what I was thinking about the orchestra members, because I've read that being in an orchestra is one of the highest stress jobs you can have.
Really?
Because there you are, you got all the snooty people, they paid like $200 a ticket, and you have to rehearse. It's got to be perfect, right? You got the conductor up there glaring at you if you make a little mistake. But I think when you're doing the pops, you just show up and you can play these things. You played them a million times, right?
You can put a little swing into it if you feel like it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I hope they are doing. Because first of all, if it's free, somebody wants to criticize it, get stuffed. What did you pay to watch this? Oh, nothing. Oh, okay. Well, that's what your opinion is.
It was nearly flawless from a listener point of view. I'm sure from their point of view, they know all the little flaws that they had. But from a listener point of view, man, it was great.
Yeah, and that would contribute so much to your pleasure in doing it, knowing that you really aren't vulnerable to criticism.
Yeah, this audience is not clutching pearls when you've made a little mistake.
Yeah, and they
don't even have pearls, whereas their normal audience come out with their best pearls to clutch.
Exactly. They have Jeeves put their pearls on them before they leave the house, in fact.
So I went back to the food lineup. Sue goes, no, I'm bringing my own food. I'm sure you bring your own food if you want, but I'm going to go to the food truck. I said, I'll order for you if you want. She goes, okay, yeah, I'm not going to bring food, order for me. So I head back there. I choose the shortest lineup, and it's the worst truck by far. The lineup moves super slow. It was the, just for our audience, if you're going in the future, it is the Jamaican one, jerk chicken. That place, the lineup moves slow. And then once you finally place your order, then you join the crowd.
The milling around
got
crowd.
Their numbers, yeah. So, I mean, I didn't mind because it was a beautiful day. You could still, the music wasn't on yet because I still made it back in time for that.
That's good.
But Sue said you were up there for an hour, but it was all good. It was all good, and the jerk chicken was excellent with rice and
it
says rice and peas. I guess that's what they call them in Jamaica, but they were really beans.
Oh,
they're actually quite nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wanted to say on Canada Day. So first thing, I've underestimated Canada Day as a thing, right? So I was at a Canada Day event and I was really surprised how crowded and popular it was. I just thought, what the hell?
And lots of immigrants there, right?
Yeah. And riding around that same weekend, there was a couple of places where it was like, look at all these people. Everybody and their dog appears to have been cooped up for months. and just wanted to get outside. And I don't think it is cooped up. The weather's been pretty good. I think people just like to get out and enjoy the green spaces way more than I have imagined for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, all the MAGA types, they don't show up for the national celebrations.
Yeah, well.
We got our Canna MAGAs, right?
Yeah.
They don't show up for those kind of things. They're not out for picnics and stuff like that.
Don't get me going,
They're just
man.
at home doom scrolling.
Yeah, so I think I've mentioned on the show once before, there's an injunction against people hanging off the mountain highway overpass over top of Highway 1 at the bottom of the cut.
I believe you did mention that, yeah.
And that there's some reluctance on behalf of the RCMP detachment in North Vancouver to enforce that injunction.
Oh, yes.
Which leads to the question of, geez, are our police forces picking and choosing which laws, which court orders they choose to enforce?
I think demographically, police are more likely to be right-wing than left.
Yes, they are, isn't that? And so I drove down there again the other day, and there's a whole whack of people up there. It's always Thursdays. And there was a whole bunch of people out there in pride regalia. All kinds of flags and holding signs, and I honked my horn and gave them a big thumbs up as I went by. Good for them to have the courage to go up there and counter protest. But I mean, you sort of think, okay, RCMP, now what are you going to do? Now you have two opposing factions. The thing is twice as crowded. Now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
On Canada Day, I went down and did volunteer work for a friend of the show, Bo and Ma, down at Lonsdale Quay. So my volunteer task was making buttons,
Right,
buttons.
the button machine.
The button machine.
Yeah.
So it was great. That was probably definitely the most fun 2.5 hours of volunteer anything I might have ever done. Just you stand there with this machine and you get into a little rhythm because you have to do little moves. And the idea is kids come to a table and they're given a piece of paper with something pre-printed on it that's round. And they color it and they put little stickers on it.
Yeah.
And then they bring it over to the table and somebody else cuts it into a round piece of paper that'll fit in the button just the right size with a special cutter. And then they hand it to me or the other button maker and we just make it into a button. And it was great. The person who's doing the cutting was also doing the gatekeeping. Sorry, there's a limit of 2 per person. You'll have to come back with him.
Right.
I was so grateful that someone else had to do that. That's a terrible job.
Yes.
Because little kids are coming for the 4th time and stuff, and I'm just pumping out the things. And every one of them say, that's a great button. And you hand it to some little kid. They're just thrilled to get this, like a button with their drawing in it. They just think, whoa.
So you got a layer of metal.
Yep.
You got the kids drawing.
Yep.
Is
Layer
there
of plastic.
some kind of plastic. And then the button just crimps it all over.
Yeah, then the
maker.
pin goes underneath the layer of metal. That's the
pin,
last thing that
course.
gets crimped in there. So towards the end, this kid comes up, and I've seen him at least 3 times already. At least. And by now, the gatekeeper is probably pretty much done. Just whatever. This kid comes up, and she cuts the square, and they hand it to me, and I look at this piece of paper, and it says, Marco has no wiener. I stick it in the thing and make it a button and I hand it to him and he just gives me this little half smile as he walks away. Like, I just thought, look, if the gatekeeper's handed me that, I make it in. I just push him out.
Your job is not to be a gatekeeper.
Oh God, I laugh.
You're like the Facebook reviewer who sees some pretty bad stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Very entertaining. And, the little kids are just hopelessly cute, right? Oh, they're just really thrilled when they get stuff. And here's this dippy 10 or 11-year-old kid.
Yeah. And
Marco, I made you a button.
Marco's like 7 years old, right?
Something, yeah.
He's a little sibling.
And the kid's, he's looking like he really pulled one off. He walks away with this little
That's
smile
so
back.
Funny.
Anyway, that was very pleasant. That was a lot of fun doing that. I don't think... That's only the second volunteer thing I ever did, and that was a lot of fun. But geez, there was a lot of people. Holy smokes. I just was floored by how many people were milling around.
KJ, I'm liking your orange thing. See, I'm thinking of it as a finished work, but it may not be.
Definitely a work in progress.
See, but that's the weird thing,
Yeah, although I'm kind of digging it as a almost finished product myself. But
I know.
You know what they say, the hardest part of producing art is knowing when it's finished.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
It's a true thing. It does actually get said. When do you stop screwing with it and just call it a day?
I believe it.
Yeah.
Can we put a photo of the work in progress on the
Sure.
site? Okay.
So it is actually
Nice.
a commissioned work
Is it?
for my first wife.
Is it?
Her color is orange.
Are you going to make up a bunch of faux meaning for it all?
Oh, not
These
faux,
scratches represent some
not
of the...
faux skin, not faux
Oh, really?
tall.
Oh, my goodness. You got a spiel to go with it.
Yeah.
Because as far as I can make out, as far as abstract art goes, that is the key.
So, actually, I have also a photo which remind me if I don't get around to doing it. She said, "I really like this painting or picture or whatever," and I said, "Oh, I could do that." So I'll show you what the model is. Then this will be the work in progress, and then I'll show you the finished product.
Oh, nice.
And happy birthday yesterday to Haley.
Oh, thank you. Yes, she was yesterday in Greece, I believe. I saw her picture at the Parthenon.
Why not?
Wow.
Huge lineup.
Her and Ron
38
went?
degrees. Yeah, they went for Ron's business partner's brother got married in Lebanon. So they went over just because of the travel. The itinerary calls for you to go to Greece first anyways. So they stayed a few days on the island of, I think, Parthos or Parsos. And I posted a picture of the dogs going to the bathroom, the chihuahuas, and I said, from the island of Dempseyos, because Dempsey Street is where we were.
Ah, right.
The island of, I thought it was hilarious. And then they went to Lebanon and sent pictures from there and did the wedding. And then they came back to Greece for a few days in Athens, I guess, and they did the Parthenon. Now she's in Montreal this day. So yeah, happy birthday to
That's
Haley.
pretty awesome to be able to go to Lebanon. And of course, Greece, but Lebanon's not a place that most people would go to, right?
Yeah, and some of the pictures, you sort of go, ooh, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Pretty nice, really.
A lot of those places that in our minds are kind of like hellholes.
Yeah, war-torn crisis
Yeah,
centers.
like Iran's supposed to be just spectacular and beautiful.
There's too many places, not enough time, boys. Going to Portugal in the fall, and I was reading up, Portugal does not have a lot of sort of big, giant, world-famous landmarky architecture. Or
Portugal's beautiful, I've heard.
yeah, they just say it's nice. This is the Rick Steves book.
Yeah, not just nice, though. It's just really remarkable. Is the people that have gone there that have talked to me about it.
Well,
And Spain as well. So someone was just recommending to me Spain and Portugal. John McMaster, actually.
oh, really?
My buddy, Johnny Mac.
John Mack, yeah.
Yeah. So he listens to the podcast, and he contacted me the other day saying, I'm having problems with my Mac.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Attaboy.
So I've been helping him out. He's going to buy me coffee or something.
That's funny.
I could top that.
But Johnny Mac was saying Spain and Portugal, beautiful and cheap,
Yeah.
which I've always just thought, okay, Europe's Europe. You're going to pay through the nose, but
Yeah, I hope that's true because I'm just about tapped out with, we're doing a cycling tour.
Right,
From
yeah,
north
yeah.
to south and...
from Porto,
35
I believe, starting in Porto.
Yeah, and finishing in Tavira, which is described in the Rick Steves book as a village, which I was kind of surprised. I don't know.
Yeah, well, have you ever talked to an Indian person about villages?
Nope.
Like one guy said, I'm just from a village. It's like 80,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a village in India.
Well, I think
In
it's
Portugal,
China.
maybe a village is 5,000 people or something.
Maybe. Well,
What are your dates, Skin?
I think we start riding on September 15th.
Oh.
And we finish on October 2nd, maybe.
Oh, okay,
I'm not really, I can't quite
So
remember.
a couple weeks of riding.
Yeah, we'll do 12 days of riding. And
That's pretty
each of
good.
those days will probably be a bit shorter than the Land's End to John O'Groats that we did.
Mm-hmm.
So probably about 80, but there's a lot of, I understand there's a lot of climbing, which is
Yeah.
unhappy for me.
And then do you hang around or you just come back after the
Well, I
the
think
tour?
we're going to do a couple days on either end. A couple days in Lisbon, a couple days in Porto to kind of see what the town looks like. A couple days in Tavira or environs. We haven't quite
Porto's supposed to be lovely.
sorted that out. Yeah, lots of steep streets.
But you're over there. Why don't you can't add a tack a week on?
I maybe I could, but there is the money thing. That's one thing.
But I mean, just check out what does it cost to stay at something like an Airbnb or a Vrbo there. Might be a lot cheaper than you think.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. My tickets are bought. That's stuff's all
there you go.
manageable, but
Okay,
I bought
so
the
you're
tickets
set.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun, and I will find out.
Well, it's funny because Susan just had dinner with John and Leanne at the lake.
Okay.
Like within the last 3 days. And yesterday she informed me that she's going to Portugal in October. She's going to do the Portugal
Trail.
Camino.
Oh, right.
The little one or the smaller one.
Yeah.
Well, you can just tell her I'll get there first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that.
Copycat. If we get T-shirts, we'll make her take one too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you know what I've been doing? I can top all of your John Mack fixing his Mac.
And my little green concerts. Yes.
No, I can't top the concert thing. Actually, it doesn't top anything. It's not a contest. But so, I don't know, not too long ago, having dinner with the dance ladies at somebody's house, and one or two of them said, we would like to have just speak English nights.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I've been we have a WeChat group, Let's Speak English, and we just meet. It's just me and 3 people from dance.
You meet at someone's house?
No, right now we're just meeting in Clinton Park, 45 an hour before dance starts.
Okay.
And they bring all these snacks and the cutest little tea set you've ever seen, all packed away for travel, and brings it out and makes tea. And we were up on Burnaby Mountain, that park up there.
Yeah.
Really nice. Oh, I got some great pictures up there. But that's been pretty interesting. And I'm learning a lot. Unfortunately, I'm not learning a lot of Mandarin because they're not interested in my petty problems with Mandarin. They want to learn English. They don't care about my crap.
Where do you meet at the park?
Just near the wading pool in Clinton Park.
Oh, okay.
Where we used to dance.
Because we go there every second day, just about.
Well, 6:30. 6:30 tomorrow, I'll probably be there.
Oh.
With the 3.
Because that's a good
ladies.
dog time, too, actually.
Well, look for us at the east end of the park, I guess that is.
Come and harass you.
Yeah.
Yeah, let them off leash amongst the dancers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the whole group doesn't dance there. We just, the 4 of us meet.
6:30 is your meeting, and then
we
the
dance at
start?
7:45 over at Chief Joseph McQuina Elementary School on 3rd and Slowcan.
Okay.
So we meet at 1st and Slowcan,
Oh.
and we dance at Joseph McQuina. If that's how
I
you
walked
pronounce
by
it.
there yesterday. McQuina, I thought, that's a good Irish native name.
Look for us in there. It's hot, though. Ooh. It's really fun, though, dancing at that school because lots of people bring their kids down to play in the playground.
Uh-huh.
And we routinely get little 2- and 3-year-old kids just standing there with their mouth hanging open
Just
watching
want to
us.
watch. Yeah.
Waving these big fans around and stuff. And they're just like, whoa. Yeah. It's really fun. Actually, that's a lot of fun.
Geez, if it gets any hotter, I could use a big fan. Speaking of fans, let's have a look.
So these things are called wide fans.
Yeah, PJ brought one of his dancing fans.
Well, very jellyfish-like, I think.
These ones are hard to really snap much. And you wave it around. You do a lot of this kind of business.
I mean, I've seen a lot of that in the parades down in Chinatown. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm just learning. We are just learning how to use these. It's interesting. Eh? So when you dance, if you're just dancing, what you do with your hands and feet and your body's pretty noticeable. It's just you up there dancing. You get a fan in your hand, a round fan.
Oh, right.
All of a sudden, the eye follows the fan. You get one of these things in your hand, these wide fans. You can do whatever you want with your other hand and your feet. Nobody notices anything as long as because this thing is just big as life. It's waving around out there. So I often, and it's the same with costumes. I often joke about, costumes doing all the work in that one because everybody's wearing a fancy costume.
Yeah, little misdirection going on.
Yeah, a lot of misdirection.
Has anybody ever blown a fan?
What do you mean, like have it dropped it? Everybody drops it.
No, but
it actually falls apart or rips.
Not that I've seen. It's pretty...
I've seen fans fall apart.
Pretty robust.
Well, it's pretty cheap is what I was going to say. It's very cheap. I got a wicked splinter off it the other. It's hard to do sitting down, but I spent a lot of time just doing this just to get where I could... You need to, in the middle of the dance, you need to be able to open it quickly and close it quickly.
Wow.
Right? So I spent quite a bit of time just doing that. I just thought you'd be interested in seeing that because I don't know if I will appear publicly with one of these. I'm confident in my orientation as it stands, but I feel that there's a decidedly feminine aspect to these kinds of fans.
Yeah.
That said...
I can't say that I've ever seen men using them in the New Year's parades.
I also have a parasol in the car that I do a couple dances with, and it's really fun to do the dance.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at it. Don't know if I'll do it publicly because, again, it's sort of jarring to see a man waving a parasol around. It just, I've seen videos of men doing it, but the guys I've seen in videos doing it are real dancers, right? You can tell at a glance that they're real dancers. They're super graceful. They don't look like me. I look like some guy with a parasol. They look like dancers. Fun to do, though. Lots of fun to do. Now, I believe we had
Listener mail?
listener mail
Which one's that?
from our recent guest, our most recent guest.
Oh, Captain Bob.
Captain Bob.
You want to read that one out, or do you want me to
Sure,
dig?
I can read it out. So this is a new comment on episode 165, The Time Traveler, in which now famous, he was already pretty well known, but now he's out and out famous, Captain Bob from Saskatoon. He writes in and he says, and I'm just going to say, it's hard not to try imitating his voice when you read this. He says, it was a great honor to join 3 incredibly gifted confreres in conference. I sound a bit like RJ's, PJ's, and KJ's laugh track, as they are very funny guys. Was I equalized to sound like a goober? Or is that my real voice? Just wondering. XO.
A goober.
A goober. And I also liked conference confreres.
Confreres, yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to episode 165, absolutely go do listen to it. It was really a lot of fun. Without any insult to any of our other guests who have also been extremely wonderful, it was really a lot of fun having Robin here. We've known him forever. It was just great to shoot the breeze.
And by the time you hear this, 166 will be out as well.
Yeah.
And Captain Bob was featured in that one too.
Yeah. It took me like a week to recover. In fact, if this episode and the next one sounds a little flat, it's because we wore ourselves out when Robert was here.
Did you like my thought bubbles in the photo?
Yes, I did. I did.
Tonight I'm telling him the truth about Santa Claus.
Well, because he has that in the photo. He has that look at his face.
He's
He's got
looking
his
annoyed.
chin stuck out a little
He's
bit.
just a little bit miffed there.
What the hell? Yeah, that's the only... I was pretty pleased. And so Rob now, of course, Rob, I just finished saying I was exhausted for a week after that episode, but he's going to be suffering all manner of temporal distortion and stress. He's listened to and responded to an episode that is a year and a half at least ahead of where he's at in his sequential
Right, so
mission.
now he's going back to his sequence, no doubt.
Man, it's just... There's going to be a lot of stress on the internal structures there. So I hope somebody's keeping an eye on him, because that's a lot.
We went to VanDusen Gardens.
How was that? Because I've been pondering
It
that.
was excellent. I mean, it's cheap, right? So I don't know what Butchart Gardens must be, like
don't know.
$20, I'm guessing. And it is like just the fact that it's in the middle of the city, and your mind boggles with what the value of that land is.
Yeah.
So it was like, I think I got the seniors rate of $9, and Sue had paid like $11 or something. And it was fantastic. And it's summertime, right? So it's not the best. But
Oh,
of
no?
course they have all kinds. Well, it's not going to be the best. Spring's going to be the best, right?
Oh.
But they had all kinds of blooms and whatnot. And they had those massive, they're actually literally called giant,
Handkerchief trees. No.
Swiss Family Robinson trees?
what's the kind of vegetable in your garden that you make pies? Rhubarb. It's called
elephant.
giant rhubarbs, and they're like what? Each leaf is about 5 feet across.
They look prehistoric.
But it is
don't
called giant rhubarb.
Is it?
Yes.
I thought it was called elephant something or other.
Well, it might.
Not
it might.
grass.
Yeah, you know how it
And
goes.
doesn't
right?
it have a spiny stalk as
Yeah,
well?
it
I
does.
think
It does.
Yeah.
And if you're not using the Latin,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can call it whatever you want. But I think they use.
Tone of defensiveness there, but we'll just keep moving along.
If you're not using the Latin, I'll call it whatever the fuck I want. Is that
Now
better?
it
Is that
segues
closer?
into aggression. I don't know how I feel about all of this.
Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, that's good to know, because I have thought about it, because we visited that Lakeland Flowers and saw tulips, and it was cool. And I can't get a bead on lilacs, and I was thinking about VanDusen as an alternative. Mm-hmm. And so it's good to hear that.
Yeah, I mean it's huge, and so you can just wander around is one approach, not worry about, because they hand you the maps, and
Yeah.
you know, at first we were looking around, we tried to follow the self-guided tour. You know, it's like you
Was
turn,
it all in Latin or something?
It tells you to turn back and look at the gentle curves of the roof and why the roof's curved, right? And it says to go to the lake, right? Turn back and look at the roof, and it says now, okay, so go to your right. Okay, so Did you mean to the right as we're viewing the curves? Or do you mean as we're viewing Livingston Lake, right? Okay, let's assume that it's the lake. Put yourself in their mind. Cross a wooden bridge. Wooden bridge. That means that you're going to be crossing over the part of the lake there. Now go up a gentle incline.
What's gentle?
There's 3 paths, 2 of which have gentle inclines.
I can just hear him having this conversation.
Like,
what's gentle?
So we got lost. We couldn't actually do the self-guided tour, which is too bad. I kind of enjoy those things, but
that is pretty fun, RJ, because listeners, I just want to remind you, this is the same guy who in his past became very frustrated over a lack of a clear definition of what a pinch of salt is.
Exactly. I remember that well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, when you get a thing that says a gentle slope, all you direction editors out there, put in the degree of slope. For heaven's sakes, just put it in.
No, just start with, just say the gentle slope to the left. It's so easy when you're easily confused. You can actually write these really well.
Yeah.
But the people who are listening, it's all organic, man. Just go with the flow.
That was the end of this one. We had a bunch of fun. Hope there was something in there that you found relevant or useful or informative or amusing or all of the above. We did. And I think you can look forward to more of the same in the next episode.